Honestly, it's been a long time coming at this point.
This time it's the outside line. Oh, they made contact. He's got a puncher.
Max Verstappen and Lando Norris finally got into a collision for which the Dutch driver received a 10-second penalty, but more importantly, denied Lando of a victory, making him DNF, while Max himself finished into points at P5. This will inevitably put a dent on their friendship, which will definitely change how Lando sees his best friend on the grid. And on the other side, Max proves once again that he is before all a racer. The pivotal moment occurred in this race when Red Bull's sticky left gear wheel during the second stop allowed Norris to close in, reducing Verstappen's 7-second lead to just 3 seconds. Norris, now on fresh medium tyres compared to Verstappen's used ones, quickly narrowed the gap to 1.7 seconds, then 1.1 seconds, and finally within DRS range. This DRS advantage pulled Norris into the battle, and he was ready for it. Verstappen's frustration likely grew from what he perceived as an unnecessarily long middle stint and the pit lane issue. Now with Norris threatening to steal his win, Verstappen's determination only intensified. Norris had been pushing hard and had already received a black and white warning flag for exceeding track limits. One more infraction would result in a penalty. On lap 59 of 71, as Norris approached turn 3, he made a late dive down the inside, momentarily taking the lead, but running off the track in the process. He ceded the position back, but had exceeded track limits for the 4th time, resulting in a 5-second penalty. Norris argued that Verstappen's reaction had forced him off, but this time, it was Norris's fault. 4 laps earlier, he had to avoid contact as Verstappen moved in the braking zone, but this incident was different. The penalty seemed to diminish the intensity of the contest, but Norris, unaware of it, attempted another late move at turn 3 on lap 63, reaching the apex first. Verstappen ran off the track to avoid contact and rejoined ahead without relinquishing the position. There was a brief possibility that any penalty for Verstappen might cancel out Norris's own, but that idea quickly vanished on the next lap when Red Bull's left rear wheel made contact with McLaren's right rear, causing punctures for both cars. The stewards later gave Verstappen a 10-second penalty for causing an avoidable incident, but it made little difference. The intense battle had reached its climax, and both drivers were out of contention. Norris retired from the race, though McLaren ensured to serve his penalty first, so it wouldn't carry over to Silverstone. Verstappen rejoined in a distant 5th place, without even the fastest lap point, as Fernando Alonso's late stop for soft tyres undercut Verstappen's time. So Russell was the recipient of their aggression. After coming out on top of a brief tussle with Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton, he ran the early stages around 2 seconds adrift of Norris, who in turn had fallen 6 seconds behind Verstappen in the first stint. Russell pulled out a comfortable gap on the battling Hamilton and Carlos Sainz behind. Up to the second stops, Verstappen had maintained his gap over Norris to around 7 seconds, with Russell now around 10 seconds off the front in a race of his own. Going then with mediums, his stint was limited to 24 laps before they were finished, and he switched to hards for the final stint. It was going to be a distant third, a good, polished performance which made Hamilton's race look rather scrappy. Lewis, having surrendered a place to Sainz in anticipation of a penalty, then damaged his floor over the curbs, losing him a lot of lap time and punishing the tyres. This is the first time it looked like Verstappen's not really enjoying this new close battle at the front. He didn't like his Red Bull on the hard C3 tyre. He was annoyed that Red Bull's slow final pit stop basically eliminated the protective cushion he'd worked so hard to build over Norris. And he was clearly annoyed at what he called Norris's repeatedly dive-bombing him at the hairpin. I think that frustration boiled over in the final stint, and he regressed briefly to the 2018 version of himself, the one that would rather make a blunt point in the moment than see the bigger picture. Norris had a track limit penalty coming. Verstappen almost certainly had this race won. Verstappen has always raced hard and right to the edge of what the rules allow, but this time he was slightly over that line. Norris decided to keep his car absolutely straight in that final clash, making it clear to everyone that Max was moving twice in the braking zone. A needless collision, of course, but one born of Verstappen's refusal to back down, combined with his frustration at a race he had full control over, suddenly getting away from him. What I think's not okay in this statement, Verstappen didn't show any remorse. When asked about the contact by reporters after the race, Verstappen said, "He went back at it and felt 10 seconds seemed a bit severe for me at that point." He added, "Because I didn't feel like it was super, like anything kind of aggressive going on in that movement." Of the two previous moments where Norris and then Verstappen went off the track as the McLaren attacked at turn 3's inside, which the former felt featured the latter moving under braking and against F1's racing rules, Verstappen said, "For me, it was not moving under braking, because every time that I moved, I was not braking already. Of course, from the outside, it always looked like that. But I think I know fairly well what to do in this kind of scenario." Also, a few of those are really late dive bombs from Norris, so it's a bit of just sending it up the inside and just hope that the other guy steers out of it. It's not always how you race, but I think it's just the corner here that lends to that as well. I've been in the other position as well, where you go for it, and it's just the shape of the corner. I think the move that we got together was something that I didn't expect. I saw him coming, of course, so I defended a little bit the inside, and then under braking we touched with the rear tyres, and we both get a puncture from it, which of course is something you don't want to happen. Lando was also disappointed of the move, saying, "There's rules for what you're not allowed to do, and you're allowed to do." He was doing things you're not allowed to do and not getting penalised. I expect a tough battle against Max. I know what to expect. I expect aggression and pushing the limits and that kind of thing. All 3 times he's doing stuff which can easily cause an incident, and in a way, just a bit reckless. He seemed like a little bit desperate from his side. Doesn't need to be, he's got plenty of wins, but a bit desperate to do what he could to not let me pass. And I know it's going to be aggressive. So I'm in a way not surprised, but I just expected a tough, fair, respectful, on the edge bit of racing, and I don't feel like that's what I got him into. When asked to reflect on his driving against Verstappen on Sunday in Austria and potentially in the future, Norris said, "I don't think I'm going to change anything I'm doing. I mean, I was on the edge of the track. I didn't know what else I'm going to do," he added. "It's always been a bit like that. I respect Max a lot and what he can do and what he goes out and does every time he's on the track, but there's times when I think he goes maybe a little too far, and I feel like today is a little bit of that. It's one incident, and at the same time, I know these things happen. But I'm disappointed. He ruined my race, destroyed my car. These are the best bits on the car now for the bin. We don't have a lot of space in the battle that we're in terms of upgrades and budget cap and things like that. My whole car is destroyed, and these are all the bits we need for next week. It's not just a repercussion of what happens on track, it's everything that we have to carry in Silverstone and be disadvantaged by. I just expected a bit more from him." The penalty for Verstappen was fair. It's a small misjudgment, but the way F1's rules are written, if you cause that sort of contact by edging across the other guy, it's a slam dunk. But the bigger thing for me is that it was starting to feel inevitable. Verstappen and Norris are involved in high-stakes battles almost every weekend now, and it was a matter of time before these good friends would finally collide. It's unlikely to be a one-off. You could hear how worked up they were both getting with each other in the laps before they collided. Verstappen's late blocks were irritating Norris, and Norris's lunges were going down terribly in the cockpit of the Red Bull. Verstappen is uncompromising in battle, meaning anyone that ends up fighting him on a regular basis has to be prepared to go to the limit as well. As we've seen in the past, most notably with Lewis Hamilton, the result is an irresistible force meeting an immovable object. The clash won't make either of them race differently the next time they're in this situation. So the question is, how many more days like this can their off-track friendship survive? What do you think? Let us know down in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.